Hey class, I'm going to talk to you about the expectations for Module 8. You have a discussion and you have a SPSS assignment, and you also have your Milestone 4 paper, which is right in your methods section for your proposal. So let's get started. I've got my documents here in front of me. And I'm going to cover first the 8.1 Final Project Milestone 4, Initial Draft of Methods, Data Analysis, and Anticipated Research sections. I'm going to move the camera here so I can talk to you as well as look at my work. Okay, so in this section, in this paper, you're going to be writing an initial draft of your methods, data analysis, and anticipated results. It says that the methods section should talk about your participants. I think all of you would have the same participants. You're using SNHU's participant pool. Talk about how you're going to analyze the data. Talk about what you think the results are going to be. And it says let's turn to the rubric to learn more. So let's dissect the rubric. So number 1 in our rubric, and now's a good time to pause the video and go get the rubric and follow along. Methodology. So before I start, let me say this. The literature review is the hardest part of a research project, and you just finished that. The rest goes pretty fluid. The hardest part of any research project is thinking of a unique new study, doing research on existing work that complements or differs it, and writing up and forming the idea to do the research. Once you formed your idea and you talked about it in your lit review, you're able to move forward and talk about the study you want to do. So you pretty much have already written, here's what's been done. Now you're going to write, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it. So that's the difference. The methods section, the results section, the discussion, they all complement each other and they're based on the results from your study. So let's look at our rubric. Methodology participants describes the number of participants for the study. So these are not sentences. Each rubric piece that I'm going to talk to you about right now, please talk about them, elaborate. This is not going to be a one-sentence piece. So methodology, and the way we're going to structure our paper is you're going to have headers, you're going to have methodology, and you're going to talk about all these pieces in the methodology in an organized fashion. Then you're going to go to a new section. It's going to be called data analysis, and you're going to cover each section under data analysis. And your last section is called anticipated results. So let me recap and say this paper you're turning in is going to have 3 sections: methodology, data analysis, anticipated results. Those are your 3 sections. Your rubric shows you what you need to have under each of those sections, and you can use subheaders to say methodology, participants, materials. If you've noticed, those are typical and standard of research papers. So let's go ahead and look at this. Methodology, section 1, participants, provides a number of participants for the study, but the number is not appropriate for the assignment. That's proficient. Exemplary describes appropriate number of participants for the study. You can put a good estimate and say you anticipate to have 10 to 20 participants, and then elaborate on that. Just don't tell me the number, elaborate and say why you think that's a good amount of participants for your study. Because what if you're testing opinions and you only got 3 people? Are 3 people well representative of a population? No. So tell me why you think the number that you chose is a good number for your study. Next one, materials. Describes the materials that will be used in the study, why the materials are most appropriate, justifying claims with resources, and aligning materials to the research question. What that means for you is you got to choose what materials are you using. And they're talking about surveys, pictures, phone calls, interviews. Those are your materials. So you would say that you're using maybe a survey, and you're going to use existing literature from your lit review, and tell me Smith & Wesson 2012 also used a survey for their study, or you're going to tell me that Johnson & Johnson 2010 used a survey but also included pictures to gauge responses. So you're justifying why you're going to use your survey with existing resources and citing and referencing, and how it all points to the research question. So if I say I want to measure the opinions of people that fish oil heals headaches, my lit review said they all used surveys, and I said, well, I'm going to use a survey because the Smith & Johnson 2010 used a survey and they found this, and my research question is, do fish oil cure headaches? Well, I'm going to justify why I'm going to use a survey to match that research question. So just tie it all together. Methodology procedures. Describe the procedures proposed to collect data and how the procedures will appropriately address the research question. This is basically telling me, tell me how after you give the survey, what are you going to do? What's the next step? This would sound like I'm going to administer a survey, participants will write down their responses, I'm going to collect all surveys, I'm going to code them, I'm going to clean the data, I'm going to form a method that is going to help answer my research question. If I had a survey that just said yes and no for every question, I would say, after giving the survey, I'm going to collect the data, I'm going to indicate how many people marked yes, how many people marked no, I'm going to see if there's a difference, if more people said yes or if more people said no, that type of thing. Ethical considerations. Discuss the ethical considerations involved in the study and the steps to remedy them. What this means is, what are the ethical concerns you have when taking this study? Here's an example. What if I'm given a survey on rape, opinions of rape, and what if there is someone in my participant pool who is a victim, and this makes them feel uncomfortable, and I don't consider that? That is an ethical concern. So what you would do is you would write a prompt, or you would let the participant know that they can choose to not take the survey for any reason. At any point they can stop. So my little piece to this in my example would be that to prevent any ethical concerns, I would let the participants know that they can stop at any time, that they can walk away from it, they are not required to finish it, the survey, that they have the right to not do it for any reason, and that is it's strictly voluntary. So if someone picks it up and they are a victim and they don't want to do this, they don't have to. That's answering an ethical concern. Okay, prepare raw data. This is going to now be data analysis. Section 2, data analysis. Prepare the raw data. So your surveys are back. You have all the results. What are you going to do? Propose a plan for analyzing the data that explains what the procedures will be and how you will obtain valid results. So this is basically saying, tell me how you're going to analyze your data. How are you going to prepare it? So at this point, all my surveys are in. At this point you would say, I'm going to take the surveys and results and I'm going to enter them into Excel, into a Word doc, into an Excel doc. I'm going to code all the participants into dummy variables so I don't know who said what. I'm going to clean the data. If there's any that are left unanswered, are you going to leave them out? What are you going to do? Are you going to fill it in? Think about those things. If any answers aren't. Are you going to, if one question on a survey isn't answered, do you throw that survey away? Do you fill it in with an answer of your choice? What are you going to do? So tell me, how are you going to clean and prepare your raw data? So it ends with saying, once the data is cleaned and polished, it will be ready for analytical procedures, which is the next section. Section 2, Data Analysis Plan, Analytical Procedures. Tell me how you're going to analyze the data and explain how what you're going to do will give you valid results. So this is the piece where the paragraph that you say, after I've administered the surveys, collected the data, cleaned it for analyzation. I'm going to enter it into SPSS, and I'm going to look at the mean differences and standard deviations, and I'm going to see whether or not men or women differed in their opinion on fish oil and how it cures headaches. And you're going to say, by looking at the mean difference, I will be able to see the average yes and the average no, each gender marked. Taking who said what, I will be able to make a conclusion and say that men have believed more than women that fish oil heals headaches. Something like that. So tell me how you're going to do that. The next section, data analysis, descriptive statistics. Describe the descriptive statistics from the data that will be most helpful in answering your research question. So maybe in your survey you have, they're called demographic or descriptive stats. And these are going to say things like age ranges, gender, years in college, beliefs, are you religious or not, yes or no, or would you consider yourself religious, yes or no. And those, the reason they're called descriptive statistics is because they help describe your population. So if I gave you a survey, a descriptive statistic on it, they would look like this. What gender are you? What age range are you in? What's your ethnicity? Or do you consider yourself religious or not? Would you say you're tall or short? Things like that, because at the end you can analyze that and say, on average, tall people believe fish oil cures headaches than short people. Or those of ethnic background A said this compared to B. So tell me about your descriptive statistics and which ones you're going to want for your study. So you're telling me, not saying you already did it, you're saying my study is going to have these descriptive statistics and why. And that's also a place where you can cite from your lit review and say, Smith and Smith 2010 used the variables of gender and ethnicity. So look around for that. Data analysis, principles, and standards. Discuss how the proposed data analysis methods are ethical by the APA standards. Take out your APA book, get online. In this portion, you're going to have a subheader, principles and standards, above data analysis as the major header. And tell me your study, how it's going to be ethical and how it matches that from the APA guidelines. So if you told me earlier that you're going to let every participant know that it's voluntary and they don't have to take the survey, how does that measure to APA standards? It's called informed consent. So look up APA standards and tell me how your study is going to be ethical and matches those of the APA standards, principles and standards. Notice the proficient grade for principles and standards. Discusses how the proposed data analysis methods are ethical but does not relate to APA. Make sure you're relating to APA. So that means you should have a citation of APA. Last section, anticipated results. Predicts the results of the study, explains how these results will complement or contradict previous literature, and provides rationale for the prediction. Again, you're just telling me what do you think the results will be. So in my little study, I predict that men are going to believe fish oil heals headaches more than women. This contradicts existing literature that has found that women are more often likely to be the one who buys the medicine in the house where men are not. Additional literature shows that women are more likely to research healing properties and do their homework than men are. But I believe that men are going to believe that fish oil is a healer of headaches. And the reason, this is the last, providing the rationale, the reason being is that although existing literature doesn't show it, I believe men are going to logically think through and believe this concept. So you're going to tell me what you think your results will be and why. Okay. Notice proficient grade on anticipated results. Predicts results of the study and explains how these results will complement and contradict previous literature. if you want exemplary, you have to provide a rationale for the reason you think you think what you're going to get for your answer. Give me a rationale. Give me a reason. Last piece of articulation of response. Submission is free of errors. It flows. There's organization. There's no major errors. This is a good piece too. Your whole paper needs to be organized. I'm providing a nice organized structure for you. Make sure your ideas flow. Make sure that everything is well organized for clarity. So I'm going to end on milestone 4 by saying that your paper is going to have 3 sections: methodology, data analysis. Oh, I'm sorry, let me confirm that. Okay, I pulled it back up. Your paper is going to have 3 sections: methodology, data analysis plan, anticipated results. Three sections. And under each section, those are called your major headers. They should be in the center, bolded, and on the left-hand side, unbolded, italicized. This is all APA standards. You have methodology, then you have participants, materials, procedures, ethical considerations. Notice all you're doing is following the rubric. So I hope all of this helps explain and understand milestone 4. You're writing your methodology section, and you're preparing to tell me about how you're going to analyze your data and what you think the results will be and why. So that covers milestone 4. And in your discussion, there we go. I'm pulling this up on our computer here. Be open, talk about this with your classmates. It says here, describe for your classmates an area of your final project that you're finding particularly challenging. Why is it hard? When responding to your classmates, suggest for how they can overcome the obstacles they're facing. You guys are an amazing group of people. I know you lift each other up and give compliments and encouragement. Think deep when you respond to your colleagues. Talk to them about perhaps motivation, anxiety. Share with them. And that's going to be discussion 8. So you guys are doing a great job. We've covered discussion 8 and the paper milestone 4. And we have one last thing to cover, your SPSS assignment. This is SPSS assignment 4 under module 8. And what you're going to do here is you're going to take your data sets and you're going to be talking about means. So based on what you've read in our course and understanding, you're going to talk to me about the difference in means. So those are averages. You're also going to talk to me about p-values of significance. If it's set at 0.05, is it significant above or under 0.05? And that's going to be the majority of that assignment. So make sure you're doing our readings. Make sure you're doing additional work on looking up things online to help you understand the concepts. So we've covered discussion 8, milestone 4, and your SPSS assignment, which just talks about the means, differences in means, as well as significant levels. And I'll tell you, means are a great way to understand things, because a mean average means if you have 20 people who are answering yes or no, the average by gender, the average mean for gender for yes or no would tell you how many people on average say yes for men and for women. So you could say on average, men said yes more than women. In significant levels, they tell you whether or not your study is going to be significant. If it's above 0.05, it's not significant. If it's below 0.05, it is. So 0.04, 0.001, 0.000, all below 0.05. So complement the readings and make sure you understand means and significant levels for your SPSS assignment. Okay, that's it. That wraps up expectations for Module 8. I hope you're doing great. Continue the good work you're doing, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.